Hi there, good evening and welcome to the Four Lads Had the Dream Network. This is your That Sunday show for the 15th of September 2024. My name's Scott Paterson. If you're joining us on our YouTube channel tonight, then as always, we're very grateful for you taking time out to do that on your Sunday night. And we will be with you for the next 30 or 40 minutes, just as usual, to talk about match day 5 in the SPL. Joining me to discuss it all in some sort of detail is Dougie Kinnear. Dougie, hi, how are you?
I'm very well. Busy weekend, Scott, but yeah, I'm glad the international break's over and the Rangers are back.
Yes, absolutely right. And happy Sunday to Sheryl. Sheryl, are you a bit tender tonight? Do you feel a bit wabbit tonight?
I do a wee bit. So as I said beforehand, I'm just going to sit back, chill out, and enjoy your chat. Maybe chip in every so often, the best I can manage at the moment. But no, I'm far happier than I was the last time the three of us were together. And I'll say no more than that at the moment.
Something for the headlines already. The one thing I did actually put out on Twitter today that I was way looking forward, much more looking forward to podding tonight than I did the last time we got together in episode 3, which was of course post Old Firm match, which feels like it was ages ago now. Before we get into it, I should say hello to our sponsors, Rhino Express and Clydeview Joinery, Art Gold, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, CSD Air Conditioning, and our friends across at Black Rooster, who are helping us for the duration of the season and getting us through it and allowing us to do little things like this each Sunday night, and of course on Mondays and Fridays with Stevie, Shona, Andrew and Kenny, both of which will be back in the next week or so. Dougie, yesterday the club announced that there was going to be huge changes at the top of the club. John Bennett having to step down for ill health reasons and has, of course, sort of left that position as chairman. Do you know, when you get moments like this, I think in football, it's very hard to separate the normality of a guy doing such a high pressure job and something that is maybe really serious going on. Personally, I think sometimes as supporters, we sometimes find it difficult just to gain the balance in that.
Yeah, I feel for John Bennett. I think as supporters, sometimes we forget that these people are human beings. But I think one thing we do have to remember about John Bennett is he's not some rich oil billionaire that Rangers is a play toy for him.
Yeah,
John Bennett's a boy that was brought up in Knightswood, born a Rangers fan, will die a Rangers fan. He invested in the club and he took chairmanship of the football club because he loves this football club and wants to see this football club succeed. It will hurt nobody more than John Bennett and the Bennett family that it hasn't worked out for him. And it hasn't worked out. It's been a pretty poor period under his stewardship. But that's aside. I think at this moment in time, we have to wish John Bennett all the best in his recovery and hope to see him back in some capacity at Rangers in the future, in the near future, hopefully. And until then, we need to sort things at the football club because that's us now without a chairman and a CEO. And it's important that we fill those roles because we sorely lack leadership at the top of our football club at the moment.
Sheryl, as I say, looking in, it's difficult. This is one of these ones where I think you need to be, you clearly have to be respectful of whatever it is that's going on. And frankly, it's no one else's business other than John Bennett's and his people that are looking in and out for him. Dougie makes a really good point over leadership and how we've spoken this show for the last couple of weeks, how we've started to we really don't see anything above Clement that seems to be steadying the ship, etc. Maybe looking for a chairman just now isn't great for us. It absolutely isn't, based on the other key roles that we don't have anyone in there. It's just a little bit more uncertainty, I think, from Philippe Clement upwards, isn't it, that we could really do without.
Absolutely. I know the only thing is though having Gilligan stepping in as well. In that role, we have somebody that, again, like Dougie was saying about John Bennett, is a massive blue nose, loves the club, knows the club very, very well, and is a massive blue nose, which is exactly what we need at the moment. But you're right, Dougie, we're in a period of massive uncertainty around the kind of operational side of the club as well. So it is quite worrying, and obviously we want to focus on what's going on at the pitch. But with all of this around us, it's quite unsettling at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And listen, just without stating the obvious, everyone at Four Lads Had a Dream wishes John Bennett all the best and whatever recovery it is that's ever going on. As I say, his business and absolutely no one else's. We wish him all the best. Dougie, The big moment of today was, of course, Rangers travelling to Tannadice. First time we've been there in a couple of years, based on them being in the Championship last season. I would love to see your face when the team lines came out, because I think everyone, certainly the experts on Twitter, were furious at the starting lineup this afternoon.
You could have given me 100 guesses, Scott, and I would not have predicted that starting 11. Tannadice is a tough place to go, by the way, and obviously they were sitting above us in the league until 12:07 p.m. today.
Yeah.
I think one good thing about the starting 11 today was the stability at the back. I think you've got a solid back four there. I know you've got some players who are potentially coming into the team at the future. You Cassie Virgil, for example, he will get his chance at some point. But that back four plus Butland, they've kind of shown that they are the backbone of the team at the moment. Suter picked up man of the match. I think that's a positive. I spoke about it previously around Ridvan. You might also find it really difficult to get into the team. So that's a positive. In front of that, I mean, the biggest surprises for me was Dill coming in first and foremost. Probably wasn't surprised at Lawrence. You could have seen the midfield three of Lawrence, Barron and Igamane. Glad to see Cortez come in. He played 60 minutes during the international break against Motherwell in a closed-door game, which showed that he was ready for minutes. And obviously that was managed minutes with the planned substitution. The one that just surprised me was Kieran Dill. I don't like Kieran Dill. I don't really know what we see in Kieran Dill to a degree. It's funny when you sit back, right? Because the manager's been very clear on Yanis Hadji, for example, and I just have to talk about this very briefly, because the manager's very clear on Yanis Hadji. Seeing you look at that starting 11 today, and you've got a choice of, if you take finances away from it, right, and you think of as a football fan, who would you rather have in the team, Kieran Dill or Yanis Hadji? Especially considering majority of the game Dill played out wide, which is not his position either.
Yeah,
it's a really, really weird one. Yanis Hadji away on international duty. The club wishing him well on social media. He's still nowhere near the team, but I think by all accounts, Czerny would have planned to have started right wing. It came apparent that he had a sickness bug, and that's why he pulled out fairly last minute. So it's probably unplanned that Dill would start. You can't then say that we should have planned to bring Hadji in. But actually, it's the bench that impressed me most. I think when you look at the bench today, there was finally some talent on that bench, Scott, and we started to see that talent in the second half when Bayrami, Sterling, Raskin all featured, and Igamane as well. And you had Cassie Virgil, who was about to come on and obviously didn't. You're starting to see a bit more depth in the squad as players coming back from injury.
Yeah. Sheryl, one of the things I seen on social media was the fact that as Dowell's a lefty, and we know that Czerny's a lefty, we've kind of experienced it as Czerny's been playing one ahead of James Tavernier. With Dowell being as a lefty, it almost allows Tavernier not to change his game at all. He can still continue to do what he's been doing the last couple of weeks. Yeah, and I don't want that to go down a dark story, because we've done the James Tavernier thing,
Let's not go there. No, I had seen before the game as well that Camlon had explained that he wanted a lefty in there, and also I don't know what he's doing in training, but Dowell is a fantastic trainer and has done really well in training all week. I don't know what he's doing, but it wasn't really that evident on the pitch today. But yeah, that was his justification for it, which, as you say, wants that continuity down the left-hand side with the support for Tav. So absolutely, I can understand, but we're talking about people going nuts on X. Our group chat as well was a bit of a sight to behold around about 11 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, Kieran Dill was handing around pictures of Mrs. Clement in training. There's his ammunition for his bribery into the first 11.
It's funny, that we've seen that opening 25 minutes. Dill actually had a relatively decent effort, and I was desperate for him to put it in the top corner. I really was, because it would be, you can imagine Clement just scrolling through his Twitter feeds, all these tweets that he's favourited, thinking, you're getting it, you're getting it, you're getting it, and so on and so on, because there was lots of people a wee bit disgruntled with it, Dougie.
Scott, people weren't too far away with it with Tom Lawrence, to be fair. The amount of tweets I've seen before the game say, how's Tom Lawrence getting a game? 7 minutes into the game and people are deleting their tweets.
Absolutely. Dougie, I'll stay with you because one of the things Philippe Clement said post-match, we had around 80% of possession around 25 minutes and they had no chances. It's crucial to start with that concentration and intensity with and without the ball. And I think that was one of the things we did see, that opening period was really quite impressive. They were popping about the ball relatively well. I thought Cortez had started relatively. I don't think Dessers had a good afternoon today at all, frankly. But we did see bits and pieces of Tom Lawrence. Of course, we saw the goal. We saw enough to see that he's still got the makings of something there that we can all be excited about and hopefully see the benefit of in the not too distant future.
I've spoken about it before when it comes to Tom Lawrence. Tom Lawrence is actually a very tidy footballer. He's technically very good as a footballer, but he suits games where we dominate possession. He's not somebody that's going to chase. You know, my brother had messaged earlier on saying, do you agree that Lawrence wasn't in the Celtic 11, but he was for today? Completely different games. This is the type of game, you've got the 80% possession, Scott, that Tom Lawrence is going to look like a footballer and look like a very good footballer. I think the key 2 points for me, right? I won't waffle on too much. I think the first point, which is important, is people always go on about the year that we won 55, and I think this nostalgic memory of that season is that we were outstanding every single game. The backbone of that season was actually 1-0 victories.
Yeah.
So you know when you come away from a tough place like Tannadice with 3 points, that's important. That's what you need to start to see from a Rangers team who's going to be competing at the top. So that's great. That's the positive. You've kept the clean sheet. I think that's 3 and 4. Obviously, the Celtic game was very poor at the back, but 3 out of 4 games we've kept clean sheets. We do need to start taking chances when we're on top. That first 20 minutes, even throughout the game, we did have our chances. I think Tom Lawrence had about 3, to be fair, that he should be scoring. We need to take our chances when we're on top, because in a different day, in a different game against a different opponent, you're going to live to regret those.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Sheryl, we did have chances in that first half, and you know, I thought the goal we scored was a really tidy, clinical, well-worked goal. Cortez to Dessers. Dessers puts Lawrence through, and he gets the break. He does get the break of the ball as he moves into the 18-yarder, but he tucks it home. Delighted 1-0, but we did have other chances in that. Lawrence had a chance from inside the box where he probably should score. And on the stroke of half time, and we often speak about how goals sort of at important times of games. If Dessers scores right in the stroke of half time, the match is burst. It's gone at that point for Dundee United. But by him not scoring that, it maybe causes the second half to be a little more nervy than what it probably could have been.
Absolutely. And do you know what? For that first 25 minutes, half an hour, some of the play was absolutely exquisite.
Yeah.
Do you know, I'm watching it with my dad and we're like, oh, what? Because it was free flowing. They were trying things, but the bulk of what they were trying was actually coming off. Yeah. So it kind of, for me, I know we talked about it last week, Scott, being a kind of week to week thing. Again, this was one of the weeks where I could see what Clement's trying to do. Yeah. You know, that there was those glimpses that you can see what he's trying to achieve with these players, and a lot of it was coming off. But it's just going back to that thing of not taking our chances. I think Igamane did himself the world of good for claiming for a starting position on Saturday in the Cup against Dundee. Absolutely. And I know when Bajrami came on, he was out of position, so it's difficult to kind of judge him too fully just on what we've seen, but I would be really, really keen to see those two starting on Saturday. I don't know if I maybe watched it slightly differently or I haven't watched it back. The only thing, if I was going to be slightly picky, and I'm going to go the opposite of you, Dougie, I felt, and it's maybe just because of the nerves of watching it, and you know, we know that we can give away silly goals, but I still felt there was times that Dundee United were getting the ball and were driving forward completely unchallenged. There was maybe 3 or 4 times that we just seemed to sort of back off them slightly. And as we've seen a couple of weeks ago, a better team will actually punish you with that. The back four did look quite solid, but I still thought that there was times where, you know, the Dundee United were driving forward and we were sort of backing off slightly.
Yeah. No, listen, I think that's fair. I think one of the main reasons for that, and you know, we've won today, so it's important that we don't be overly negative. But I didn't think Diomande had a great afternoon. I thought Connor Barden was excellent. And I want to come to Connor Barden in a second, because Paul, who looks in regularly on a Sunday night, has brought up the incident in the first half where the Dundee United right back could potentially have been sent off. But I thought Barden, again, played really quite well, and I just didn't think that I don't think Diamandi's helping him much just now, to be perfectly honest with you, Dougie. I don't know if you agree with that. Paul jumps in. Paul, hi, good evening. Thanks for tuning in. What were your thoughts on the tackle on Barron? If we go with what we've seen before, then for me it was red. The player goes in with pace, studs up late, and with intent, question mark. It was a daft tackle, I felt, to be perfectly frank, in the first instance. What did you think, Dougie?
Do you know, I was trying to see how many yellow cards there was overall in the game, because it was certainly rivaling the Chelsea-Bournemouth game where the referee became very card happy. Yeah. But to think how many yellow cards... well, exactly. I think, was it Don Robertson, isn't it? I think Clement's beginning to not like certain referees in Scotland. Don Robertson being the same referee that sent Sterling off against Aberdeen for an almost challenge. That fell on... I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. Dundee United's player. I've just mastered Jeffrey, right? I'm not going to try this guy from Dundee United. And an inch out, that's a leg breaker, right? And people keep on saying about things like, well, he didn't catch him fully, so therefore it's not a red card. What, do you have to break his leg before it's a red card? Because the leg was straight, the studs were up, and the lunge was there. It speaks volumes that Goodwin took him off at half time, because he knew that he's one daft wee foul away from a second yellow. It was a red card, right? And this weekend, over others, you would think that VAR would be making sure that decisions are right across all of Scottish football. So probably no surprise to me that 11 men stayed in the pitch for Dundee United after that challenge.
Sheryl, what did you think yourself? I thought, I have to be honest, when I saw it, I thought there's no danger he was going to give a red straight away. Mm-hmm. I didn't think that was going to happen, but I did think when he obviously got sort of whatever it is speaking to him in his ear, I did think he was going to change his mind and give him a red, because the chap was completely out of control. And as Dougie rightly says, if Connor Barron moves his body one way or another just at the wrong time, he's missing for months, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, the first time I watched it, I thought, yep, absolutely, that's definitely a red. And I was surprised they didn't change it. And it's like Dougie says, it's not right. But I think if he'd caught him slightly higher up, he probably would have been off, which then makes a mockery of the whole thing, because it doesn't matter. The intent's there, and he was completely out of control. So, I think it should have been a red. Absolutely.
100%. I think that's fair.
Can we talk about Paul's comment about Diamandi? Because I'm feeling more and more like that, where Diamandi's a quality footballer. We spoke about him after the Celtic game, where he was a bit lost. And I'm struggling to see right now what his position is in the team. Because bearing in mind, this is a big summer signing. And when you go and you spend, I think I was corrected after the last game where I said £5 million, I think it was €5 million. When you go and you spend that kind of money on a player for the starting 11, that's what you should be building your team around. Right now, Bayrami's going to go into the number 10. Barron's kind of that 6/8 moving around. Where does Diamandi fit in right now? Because also right now you've got Raskin just came back from injury, came on today. Does it make sense that Raskin and Barron have a period as the sitters and allow Bayrami to go further up? What do you think we need from Diamandi as a midfielder?
So one of the things it's a great question. One of the things I think about Diamandi is I think you're looking at a player who I don't think he's played in that sort of 2 role before. I think he's been used to having maybe a 6 behind him, and then whoever's playing his right or left hand side, they both have a bit more freedom than what he's had so far. And I don't think we're getting the opportunity to see that from him. He's not as advanced as a 10, and my goodness, I hate speaking in numbers when we're talking about footballers. But I don't think I don't think he's not incapable, but I just don't think he's a man that you would sit in that pocket behind a striker, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he's finding it quite hard to adapt to that way of playing with just having one man beside you, and the guys that are behind you are effectively defenders and 2 centre-halves more often than not. So I do think there's a bit of a learning there for Diamandi, but I have been disappointed with him this season so far, I must be honest. And I just think on what we saw last season when he arrived in a blaze of glory, of course, goals at St Johnstone, scored a good goal. I'm sure it was against Hearts at Ibrox as well, the 5-0 game where everyone thought that was a bit of a tide turn. And at that point, you think, wow, we've got a real good player here. And I don't think there's any doubt over the fullness of time we will make money on Diomande when he chooses to go elsewhere. But I just think we need to see so much more from him than what we're getting just now. And Sheryl, I don't know if you agree, but the fact we've got Connor Barron, who's came down the road from Aberdeen and it's just like hand to glove. It's like he's been playing for us for months and months and months.
Absolutely, because again today, do you know the amount of times that he just got stuck in and won the ball back as well? He was brilliant. So that it's difficult as well because he's contributing a lot more than Diomande at the moment as well because of the way we're playing. Yeah. I think that doesn't make it. But I mean, the Old Firm game, I don't want to go back to it, but Diomande there just didn't show up.
Yeah.
Nobody did, but you're looking for him in those games to try and get in there, drive forward, because we know we can do that. But no, I agree with you, Scott. So far, we haven't really seen enough from him.
Scott, see the point about Barron. I wonder if Barron's actually caused Clement a bit of a headache. Yeah. Because I wonder if Clement was thinking, I'll go and sign an experienced number 6, a bit like Lundstrom that just sits in front of the back four. He doesn't move around the pitch too much. He just literally sits in the middle of the park. He's kind of a, what he wanted from Juan Jordan, for example, somebody that just kind of protects the defence.
Yeah.
And then he'd have allowed Diomande to be that guy that kind of moves all over the park. As Paul said, a bit more of as an attacking 8. But I wonder if he's looked at Barron come in and think, do you know what? Barron's actually this guy that can do both. He can be the 6 that protects the defence, but actually covers so much ground that he gives you so much more than what you would want from a Juan Jordan. But I wonder if that's almost a bit of the detriment of Diomande, because it's funny, Sheryl, when you touch about Diomande in the Old Firm game, because I thought he had a poor Old Firm game. But one of the other guys on Twitter actually broke down Diomande and actually showed his involvement in the game. Mm-hmm. And what was really clever about Diomande is he always picked a man. And any level of football, you're always told, pick your man that you're up against and make sure you win that battle. And Diomande's actually always on the goal side of that man and always pressing hard. But what you didn't see in the Celtic game was the rest of the team around him pressing with him. And therefore, what was happening when he was the one doing the pressing is there was holes behind him. And it's almost like right now the balance is just a little bit wrong. And I think that's what I was meaning around, does Barron and Diomande work? Because if one's going, they all need to go. And right now we're not seeing that. My very last comment, though, on the press is during the international break, I did see some Albanian supporters all raving about how well Bayrami does the press. It was interesting because when we signed Bayrami, some of the comments were around him being a very offensive number 10 who out of possession doesn't give you that. So it was interesting to see Albanian fans say that he does, because you wonder when he comes into his more natural role, whether that'll be a much more balanced midfield when you've got the 3 of them all pressing together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. A. Martin, and I don't know if it's a guy called Martin or it was Alan Martin, Alexander Martin. Clement has been emphasising the need to work hard off the ball. How is Diomande's work off the ball today? One thing I don't think you can ever criticise him for is his work off the ball. I think generally he does work hard and he does try and be about it. I just think if you're playing the Rangers midfield and it's you and one other, you have to be on it all the time. From the minute you walk out the tunnel to the minute you go up the tunnel, you just have to be on it. And I think if you're not, you very, very quickly get found out. I think someone else has said in the chat that Connor Barron's been coming across as doing the work for a couple of midfielders since he arrived, and that has to be a worry. That must be a worry for Philippe Clement. Interesting to see now that Raskin is fit. Dougie, I think you're absolutely right. If he becomes the second man in that midfield alongside Connor Barron and they do something else with Diomande, whether that's a period of joining from the sidelines or, I don't know, persevering with him in the 10, which I wouldn't like to see if I was being perfectly honest with you. Listen, Dougie, I want to stay with you. Igamane came on again and we've been crying out for this Moroccan boy to come in and show us what he's got, show us what he's all about. And you know what I'm going to speak about having the sort of... I got a message today from a really, really good friend of mine, Andrew Anderson, and he captured your comment, Dougie, about the 2 chest controls that Igamane had, which, by the way, were really impressive. Young guy, still developing his game. Clearly, I think Clement said as much. I thought he looked really, really good this afternoon. And if anyone had any concerns about whether he could be a Rangers number 9, he absolutely could, in my opinion.
I was happy to see him come on as number 9, actually, Scott. I think that's a really good point, because when he was coming on, I didn't know if we were going to take Dessers off or whether we're going to put him left wing, put Bajrami centre. I didn't know if we're going to do anything to play him out of position. I like to see guys get their chance in the position. It's what Sheryl was saying earlier on around Bajrami. It's difficult to judge him because he was playing left wing when his natural position is through the middle, just behind the striker. So I was delighted to see him get his chance through the middle. And Sheryl, you were very complimentary of him after the Celtic game. He was probably the only player that came out with any kind of positivity. Everything he did today was positive. His chest control was brilliant. We're going to need him. You go back to Morelos, for example. We need somebody who can, bring the ball down, hold the ball up, bring players in, win free kicks. What I really liked about Igamane was his ability to chest it, but he actually was chesting and then turning, and he was so direct. He was so positive thinking. There was that one where he kind of chested it, he turned, he then burst forward, and Lawrence, believe it or not, Lawrence actually ran faster than someone. So Lawrence actually passed him on his right-hand side, and then he played the pass. And that was one of the chances I referenced earlier on around Lawrence. Probably should have scored it, but their keeper had a good game. It was a good save. But I was really impressed with Igamane. And one of the things I would say is there was obviously this bit of negativity around Igamane when Clement first signed him, because he was, let's be honest, right, he was posted missing. We didn't know where he was.
And the outlay was big, Dougie. The outlay was big for us.
It's big if you believe the outlay, because there's so many conflicting stories about the outlay. I've heard that the outlay is actually only 600 grand, Scott, but then there's other figures saying 2.5 million. So you don't know how big the outlay is. But we've signed a guy who, what was he playing? Military football in Morocco. It's not like he was playing at a high level. So you've signed this guy. Nobody knows where he is. There's rumours circulating that he's injured for 4 months, or he's came into training and he's not been too impressive. And that's the danger, right, of social media, is you start to believe some of these stories and you start to think, we've just signed another guy who's absolutely hopeless. When, with Danilo coming back from an ACL, you've obviously seen that he's injured just now. And that's always the danger, coming back from a serious injury. We needed another striker who could hit the ground running. And that's why so many supporters wanted the likes of a Lawrence Shankland. So there was a bit of worry around Igamane because he was AWOL and you didn't know where he was. You then see him come on for a very short time against Celtic. He looks impressive. He looked impressive again today. That's a huge positive for me, because Dessers, as I spoke about previously, has only been one centre forward in the entire squad for a period. He's had no competition, but he's had nobody to come on and give him a break as well. So it's great to be able to bring Igamane on, to give Dessers a rest as such. But to Scott's point there as well, you're also talking about a different type of striker. I mentioned 55 earlier on. Look at the strikers during the 55 season. You had Morelos, who was the guy that could hold it up. You had Defoe, who was a penalty box striker. You had Roof, who could play out wide sometimes and come in. And you had Cedric Itten as well, who, whilst we all laughed at Itten at times, he scored important goals against Motherwell that won us the league. So you're going to need different types of players for different games. Impressive performance. One of a number of highlights for me actually today. There was a few, and it was all the guys that were all new to the club. What I would just urge fans is just be patient with Igamane. I know he had a good game. We've got a cup game on the horizon next week. We've then got a very busy period because we've got Malmo, during the week after the Dundee game. We're going to need to start mixing up the squad. Just be patient. He's only a young guy. Just because he's had a couple of good performances, don't let's all, push Dessers out and say we want Igamane to come in straight away. We need both of them. Coming into this important run of games, we're going to need both of them. So let's hope we do get to see him get given more game time, longer game time, and let's see what he can do in front of goal, because he's not really had a shot yet before we all get too excited. Let's see if he can put the ball in the net.
I'm sorry if he doesn't start on Saturday, I'm writing. Well, thanks for that, Dougie. I listened intently. I agree with most of what you say, but if he doesn't start on Saturday, I'm writing.
Sheryl, there will be changes though. On Saturday, I do imagine there will be changes.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that Bill Story makes a really good point. Igamane made a difference. Great touches and awareness. Hope he gets a goal soon. Sheryl, I think if he gets game time in the Cup next weekend, and I'm not suggesting the Cup's going to be a gimme, we'll come to the return to Ibrox before we finish up for the night. But the important thing for him now, at this moment in time, is to get himself in the score sheet. It's getting him onto that slab, if you like, of goal scorers, and it's a lift off and a platform for him to hopefully push on.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point by Bill, because that's all that's missing, really, isn't it? His contribution today was excellent. He looked strong. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's actually a fantastic thing on X. It's a Photoshop picture. Somebody's made a comment that Igamane could, control a fish supper while holding off Gemma Collins. And somebody's actually Photoshopped that on X. So if you haven't seen it, please go and see it. It's an absolute work of genius. But no, yet he just needs that goal, doesn't he? And I do think we don't want to, as Dougie says, put too much pressure on him. But to have him there as an option, it's fantastic, because we have got such a huge amount of games coming up, and all of them are important games as well. You know, we need to make up these points in the league. We've got Europe coming. We want to stay in the Cup as well. So we need to have these options that are going to be interchangeable. And obviously as well, being able to give Dessers that break and maybe bring him on and release a wee bit of that pressure. You know, we've discussed him at length. We all kind of feel quite similarly on him. But if we maybe give Dessers that wee bit of break and lessen the pressure, we might see a wee bit more from him as well.
I think as well, when you consider the ongoing situation that we have back and forward with Danilo, I think having Igamane ready to go, and I don't care what anyone says. I think based on what we've seen today, and as I say, I don't think Dessers had a great afternoon at all. Igamane looked like he can potentially offer a bit more than Dessers potentially. He holds the ball up. He has that ability, as Dougie references, chest it, turn, face in the right direction, bring other people into play. There's a lot of boxes ticked, I think, on Igamane for what we've seen today. Philippe Clement post-match said the following to Rangers TV: "It's a hard place to come," which everyone said before the game. It's true. They are coming out of a very good dynamic with gaining promotion and a really good start to the season. We started the game very well in the way we trained, and we did really good things with and without the ball in the second half. We could have used the moments better to score a second or third goal, but we didn't give away anything. That was also important to keep the clean sheet. Dougie, clean sheet for the team as a whole is really important, I think, based on the stick that John Souttar and Robin Proper took last week. I think it was really important that the guys could go up there and come away with a 0.
Yeah, listen, for what we're saying about Igamane in terms of important, he gets his goal. Not conceding is the same for defenders. That's what they get their buzz from when they go away and they say, listen, we kept the clean sheet. So huge boost for them. I do agree with Cheryl's comment earlier on, actually, around there's just those wee moments still that make me a bit nervous, in particular with Proper. And it's a worry for me around Proper, because he is our, you know, I spoke about him after the Celtic game. He's the guy that came in, experienced the leadership from, where was he from? I was going to say Utrecht, but it wasn't Utrecht. It was the other team.
FC20.
20, yeah. So he's the one that came in with the experience. So you're a wee bit disappointed, but he's going to need game time. He's going to need to form that partnership with Souttar as well. So they're going to need that time. Listen, there was another comment that came in there from, was it Stevie Scotty, that just referenced as well about another comment from Clement, which I think is a very good comment around Igamane, just to kind of close that one off. I thought it's a brilliant point that Clement made, and something that we haven't done enough as a football club. We always wait until players make it before we sign them, rather than kind of take the punt on them early.
Yes.
And, you know, regardless of the fee, whether it was 600 grand or 2.5 million, it's still less than what we paid for Dessers and less than what we paid for Danilo. So the expectations is Igamane's there as third choice. He needs to earn the start rather than coming in as a kind of big money signing who should be hitting the ground running. I think it's a real encouragement that we've actually got a recruitment team with Niels Coppen as Director of Football Recruitment, able to pick these guys out. As I said earlier on, he came from a military team in Morocco, and we've been able to identify him. I can't remember many times where we've been saying that we've picked these guys out before they've made it big. So that's a real positive for me. You've seen it with Jeffrey as well. Jeffrey's came in and he's looked very impressive. We signed him albeit from Fluminense. He was playing in Cypriot football. We've never shopped in these markets before, so that's encouraging for me. And I firmly believe it might take us a few windows to get us up to speed. But if we keep signing these kind of guys for those kind of low fees, it's not going to be long before we start to turn over profit on these guys, and it starts to allow us to invest big money on proper starting 11 players.
Yeah, no, listen, I feel agree. I think it's markets like that we should be looking to get a bit deeper into. I think, to be perfectly honest with you, and I'm sure the guys midweek will refer a little bit more about Jeffrey. And again, I thought it was really good today. I think he looks, when he arrived, where everyone thought there was a bit of convincing, I think, needed to be done on him. He looks really good. And I would argue now, wherever Ridvan is, he has to be your first choice left back moving forward for the foreseeable future. Sheryl, I'll come to you next. And this will probably take us up.
Just pick up on something you were talking about, Clement's post-match comments. And I know the last couple of matches, particularly the Old Firm match, he got a bit of stick, and quite rightly so. But I thought a couple of his comments today were absolutely spot on. The way that he spoke about, obviously integrating the new players, the ones that have just come in, the ones that have maybe been around the start of the season. One of the things that, again, if I'm going to be a tiny bit negative, it was just the timing of a couple of the passes for me today, and he picked up on that in his post-match interview, and communication with and without the ball as well, which I think was something as well. There was just a couple of times where the ball could have gone that wee bit earlier, but again, that'll come the more these players are integrated, the more they play together. And I thought his comment about he doesn't like a boring life was absolutely brilliant, because it's the last thing that he's got with us at the moment. So no, I think as much as we've given him stick across the last couple of matches, I think today he spoke really well, and he reflected quite well in the game and kind of where we need to go and what we need to do as well.
Sheryl, I was at the Philippe Clement Q&A session during the week last week, run by the Rangers Charity Foundation, which, by the way, was an excellent evening. You had Connell, who runs the Charity Foundation. You had Alex Ray, who I thought was absolutely first class. I could imagine him in a speaker's night. Honestly, he was just, some of his stories were top tier. But see on Clement and what you just said there around, compared to the Celtic game, how he was clear on his thought, I was actually very impressed with Clement at the Q&A. One of the things that really struck me in the whole event was he was confident. He was confident in his players that he has recruited and his squad that he has at his disposal. And he just came across as a winner. And I know it's easy to say that when you're sitting here just now and you've got a season ahead of you, you don't know how it's going to transpire. All his comments, about his football career, previous clubs that he's managed, the way that he won the League Cup, even things like playing paddle with his son, never allowing his 2-year-old, when his son was 2, to win a race in the back garden, for example. I just thought this is a guy that really loves winning. And as I said earlier on about the 55 season, it was built on 1-0 games and you had the odd kind of big win. At Rangers, it sometimes doesn't need to be pretty. Walter Smith's first season, for example, wasn't the prettiest. It's about winning. And I'll be honest, at the Q&A, I just felt Clement got that. He got everything about the football club. And it's funny, a guy that Scott and I know, Gary Valentine, was messaging me, and he said, how did he come across? And I actually said, very positive. I left feeling much more positive about Clement than I did going in. And he says that was like, Gary and I were kind of commenting, he was saying it's so refreshing to hear that, because there are a few red flags about Clement. The Celtic game in particular, when you reflect on that, it isn't great, some of the comments that he made. But I'm hoping that at the Q&A, he said he's still learning. He's 50 years old, he's still learning. I think it takes an honest guy to put his hand up and say, I got that wrong. He never outright said it, but I just got the feeling we're in good hands, and I hope I'm right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And listen, by all accounts, a fantastic night in the Charity Foundation, do some really remarkable work. So congratulations on that success. Listen, Sheryl, I'll come back to you. And there's something that we are all looking forward to this coming weekend when we get the chance to get back to our stadium, back to Ibrox at the weekend. Clement said post-match, I'm so looking forward to that. It's the feeling of coming home, and it feels like 10 years, which I think we can all resonate with. If you see the energy of the fans today at Tannadice, it will be 10 times more people. I cannot wait for that. And the players are the same. We spoke previously, Sheryl, about how we felt that the players accommodated Hampden to their general work day. I just wonder how much they're looking forward to getting back to Ibrox next weekend.
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. But then you need to remember that I'm talking on behalf of the Giffnock Loyal. So if you see 2 rosters with placards just before kick-off outside the stadium, you'll know it's me and my 8-year-old son, because Hampden's far easier for us to get to. So it's joking aside, we're looking forward to getting back. I think it'll be a brilliant occasion. I think the team will be buying up for it, especially those players that maybe haven't run out at Ibrox in front of the packed stadium before. So definitely looking forward to getting back to it.
Dougie, Sheryl makes a really good point, because we will have players that will be brand new to Ibrox, won't have experienced it, won't have experienced the crowd and all the good stuff that it brings that we all know about. It's going to be a big weekend next weekend, I think.
Huge. And, I can sit in my own seat as well, because the Copeland front is open. So
Exactly.
I'm excited about being back at Ibrox. There is no place like home. I cannot stand Hampden. It is an awful stadium. I'm yet to find a seat that I find a good view of the pitch, and I think the atmosphere just wasn't the same inside the kind of bowl style of Hampden, and I think it kind of reflected on the pitch at times, in particular the Dino Kiev game. So delighted to be going back to Ibrox. I can't wait to sit in my own seat around the guys that I've kind of sat with for so many years, and I hope it's a loud night for some of these guys, because Ibrox is a special stadium.
Yeah.
In the words of Yanis Hadji, who's currently playing B team football for us, it's different, baby. Like, it is one of the most iconic stadiums in world football, and it's important that these guys experience it early, because you don't want the first game at Ibrox being a European game or a must-win game against Celtic, for example, or Aberdeen, who are above us. It needs to be games that these guys can start to feel like it's home, because we've tried to make Hampden feel like home to kind of make the most of the situation. But Ibrox is our home, and it's important we make these players very clear on Saturday next weekend that this is the Blue Sea of Ibrox.
Absolutely. I completely agree with all of that. One thing I think will be particularly special and important, we had it today at Tannadice, Ibroxonia, when it was sung around the ground. There'll be something, I think, and probably a little bit special about that song getting belted out around the stands next weekend. We'll look forward to that hugely.
That's one of the best tunes, by the way. See of all the kind of most recent songs, that is an absolute cracker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we've all heard bits and pieces that maybe I don't know if I like that. I'm definitely not going to sing that one. I'm going to sing that one, but I think this one, there is a collective appreciation of it. I think everyone gets it, likes it, sings it. So I will look forward to hearing that at Ibrox next weekend. Dougie, good to have you on, buddy. I appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Let's hope we're back smiling again next weekend.
Absolutely right. And Sheryl, always, and I know you've had a busy weekend, so I'm really glad you could make it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just assure Dougie as well in the comments that if I was sitting up on that couch, there's a very high chance I'd be asleep by now. So I'm just going to stay down on the floor. But thank you for worrying about me, Dougie.
I'd like to say that's not me, by the
way. Listen, before I let you guys disappear, I do want to say a couple of more things. Well done to Rangers women today. A 6-1 home win today in the Scottish Power Women's Premier League. Lafay with 2, Katie Wilkinson, needless to say, with an R2, Rio Hardy and Liv McLaughlin also getting on the score sheet. And they conceded their first goal of the season today to go 1-0 down. 100 matches for Kirsty Howitt and 50 for Rio Hardy today. So both reaching some really important milestones. So congratulations to the both of them. On the network this week, you got the Monday show with Stevie, Shona, Andrew and Kenny out tomorrow night. And on Friday, weekend preview, I think there's a possibility I'll be hosting that on Friday, and we will try and do something live for you. So we look forward to that, and it will be a build up to the weekend, of course. So really looking forward to that. Don't forget to help us grow by commenting, liking and subscribing to the channel if you can. Put the notification bell on, so each time we release anything across the network, you get a small notification and you can check it out and join. And by all means, comment on everything we do. make it clean and relatively tidy. Some recent pods that have been out today, Sheryl and I recorded the August awards for our goal of the month and our player of the month. I'll you to jump on and have a look at that. We also have the first women's pod of the season that Stevie and I done last week. Claire Gemmell will be coming along to support us very shortly with that moving forward. And the vlog from Broadwood today for the match that we spoke about with the women winning 6-1 is available across on the YouTube channel now. Don't forget, join Stevie, Shona, Andrew and Kenny tomorrow, and us three will be back next Sunday from 9. Bye for now.
Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited and CSD Air Conditioning, along with Art of Gold. Thank you for listening or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.